What's up, everybody? Welcome to another ReCoop Algonauts official Discord collaboration. Today, we are with Carter Razink. He is the CTO and the co-founder of Webblen Inc. What's up, Carter?
Oh, it's great. Great to be here. I'm excited.
Yeah. Andrew, it's been a while, man. How are you doing?
Not too bad, Coop. Nice to see you down over in Colorado, but doing well. Just working through the week.
Yeah, man. Were you in Colorado, Carter?
I wasn't. My CEO Makai was. I was not able to. A few obligations, but I heard it was pretty busy. Is that right?
It was absolutely.
It was a fun time, and I got to meet Kai as well. Super awesome guy. So I don't know if you had a chance, Coop.
I think I did. Was he posted there with a computer? Right? I feel like there was.
He might have been. He was wearing a Weblink hoodie one of the nights. That's how I knew it was him. I'm like, oh, this guy's probably Kai, and he was. It was very energetic.
That makes sense. Sure. Oh, for sure. Cool. I'm sure I met him. But it doesn't matter. Here we are, and we're here with Carter. So Carter, okay. So first, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got to Weblink Inc., or how you got to co-founding Weblink Inc., and maybe a little bit about Weblink and why Algorand.
No, that's a bunch of great questions. So
yeah,
I'll give a little background on me. I'm formally trained in physics and math. I'm working, finishing my degrees this spring. I'm basically part-time, full-time startup at this point. But I joined during high school, actually. So the two other original co-founders, Kai and Nate, both came together in high school, and they actually wanted to build a platform that kind of conglomerates all of the social medias and the full social experience into one cohesive app. Well, that kind of didn't work out as most startups kind of go through that process. But one of the things that they got a lot of traction on is the events feature. You go on the app and you see kind of what's going on around you. That kind of got some traction in the area, and we got a few local stakeholders, local businesses, community members kind of took some interest in that. And this was before I was a part of the team. This is kind of in its infancy, and I've always been in Web3. That's kind of my forte is the crypto, is the Web3 scene. I've joined. I remember my first kind of interaction was with Dogecoin. I got a bunch given to me on Reddit, and I'm just like, oh, this is sick. I just got some coins, and it's now went up 100%, and I didn't even know I had that. It's the best experience ever, and I kind of dipped my toe into crypto and Web3, and they gave this little presentation, and I'm like, hey, it'd be cool. Pay some people to go to these events that are on the platform, on the app. And then we kind of the modern version of Weblink kind of came from that. It's been uphill from there. Super exciting, and we met a lot of really cool people, made a lot of really fun progress, and hit a lot of really pretty crazy milestones looking back at it now. So we bootstrapped our way through this, and now we're on Algorand. We it's that question's really good. Why Algorand, right?
Yeah,
you could launch on Ethereum. You can launch on some layer 2, AVAX. Choose your platform. I'm heavily involved in the technical side of things. So although my formal education is in the mathematics and whatnot, I really find Algorand interesting for a lot of reasons. The primary one kind of is that technical superiority. I'm not sure how technical some of your watchers are on this channel, but Algorand is one of the, as a mathematician, which I don't like saying that, sounds way too kind of a lot of hubris, but as a mathematician, I kind of have I kind of fanboy for Silvio, because he's a genius, just straight up. He's a genius, and his mathematician based progress and work in the space of computer science builds VRFs and verifiably random functions, and then that's what he based Algorand off of. Kind of a little aside, Algorand, I believe, I don't know if this is confirmed or not, Algorand stands for algorithmic randomness, and that's why they call it that. And I think if you're going to call that Algorand, that it has some really cool underlying technology.
For sure. So it appealed to you because you're on the tech side, and it has the best tech.
It really does. It does. Yeah. I'm not trying to pay $400 for a transaction. It's just
no.
And I can't.
Well, I know. I just saw some article on Twitter about somebody minting like some chubby cats, and it costs like 200 ETH to mint the collection. That's a lot of money. 200 ETH.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So, okay. So how old is Weblink, and like when did you get started, and where are you at right now?
Yeah. So Weblink, I want to say, is a bit over 7 years old.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. It's
I was
old.
surprised too.
Yeah, it's crazy. It sounds like, okay, you just made the coin, you just started. Now we've been working on this for many years. I joined about 4 or 5 years ago. So I've been in this, working on this, perfecting our vision. I would say our social capital, our network within our community, and even farther out is significantly larger than our financial or our human capital. Right, we're a team of 5 core execs and 9 total team members, so we're pretty small. But then again, and not to compare myself for us to Instagram, but Instagram only had 10 people and they blew up too. And so we've been working on this and perfecting that vision, perfecting our mission of building involved communities. And it seems like every day it's getting more busy, but more close to that vision becoming a real tangible thing.
Cool. And before I'm going to pass it over to you, Shaman, in a second, but just so everybody, and I included, really understand what's happening here. So you're creating a way for people to kind of understand their community better and to participate in their community. So you have an app here, and I go put in my zip code or whatever, and then it shows me some stuff that's going on. And if I go show up at this, I'll get paid in Weblin. So I'm incentivized to go kind of be part of my community, or I can stream something, and people that are in my area can kind of, or anywhere, right? If I'm streaming, can people support me from any part of the world?
Yeah, people can see and watch you and then actually get paid to go to your stream.
Right.
Stream, yeah.
So they get paid to watch my stream, and they can tip me, I assume, while they're watching and things like that.
Yeah, no, 100%. You got it right. The idea is, big tech companies have done a lot of things during their kind of quote unquote reign. They Google, Facebook, choose your social media or tech company. I think the figures are every $6 that's spent in the United States goes into the pocket of Facebook or Google. That's kind of insane. Every $6, 16% of all dollars spent goes to these big tech giants. And so really we're just saying, okay, so Facebook earns all this money, Google earns all this money. What if we just gave it back? So instead of paying Facebook all this money for the data that we're telling, okay, I run a restaurant, I want to advertise to people in my community to hopefully get them to my restaurant. I'm just going to put that money into a pool, and then everybody who comes to this event that I've set up, maybe a trivia night, they're paid with this money, and it's the Webblen token. And so it's almost like tokenized attention or tokenized empathy, right? We're tokenizing the human aspect, the attention, the part that's actually valuable. And instead of just giving it to Facebook, you're giving it to people to actually do the things you want to do.
Cool. Right. So then do these businesses that use your platform pay you?
What they do is they create this thing called an incentive pool. And so an incentive pool is just a pool of money that sits in it's like an escrow wallet, essentially. And using what we call the proof of attendance protocol, not the same POAP as the Ethereum one. They're really cool. They're doing something a little different than what we're doing.
Okay.
We use our Weblin protocol, Weblin network, proof of attendance protocol. We can cryptographically verify your event attendance, and then you are rewarded based off how engaged you are. And so that money that goes into that incentive pool is now distributed amongst the attendees with based off of that engagement.
Cool. What are you thinking, Andrew?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think obviously I'm a big supporter of you guys over there. One question I did have is, so I know right now a lot of the stuff is based in the US. Do you guys have plans to do this internationally? Are you focused just in your particular states right now? Kind of what's the goal for the future of Weblin on that side?
No, that's a very good question. And I think it really comes down to what are our goal outcomes, right? And so if you look at something like Twitter or Instagram, they just use something like a daily or weekly or monthly active user as a goal key performance indicator. Ours is a little bit different. We want to measure our KPI, our key performance indicator, in communities. And so we fully intend on exploring or expanding outward outside of the United States and to enable any country that currently may not be able to use the app to its full potential. We want to enable that, and we're currently working on that on the software infrastructure and the app side. But our core focus right now is really trying to nail down network effects within our core focus community. And we have 3 right now. We're working closely with municipal governments to make sure that this is as established as possible. So we have Fargo, North Dakota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, Minnesota, as well as we're in talks with about 5 to 10 other ones, but those are our core 3. And the reason being, we really want to nail down and direct all of our entire team's efforts into the handful, or at least 1 to 3 of them, so that we can really kind of template out exactly what needs to happen to maximize our impact instead of trying to spread ourselves too thin.
That makes a good idea. Yeah, really just kind of drive home the your core partners at first, and then kind of say, hey, this is what we did for them, and then kind of expand out from there.
Precisely. Yep.
And any particular reason you chose those municipalities? Is that just kind of where you guys are located, or do you have any special connection there?
Yeah, no. So we kind of a few of those, right? So the Fargo, North Dakota one, we are all located there. We're all from there. So the 3 co-founders, me, Kai, and Nathan, we're all from Fargo, North Dakota. And then the Minneapolis, Minnesota, and St. Paul, Minnesota, we have one of our team members in that area in the Twin Cities. And so we have a few we call them community editors. So they're technically Weblin contractors, or Weblin, almost like a Weblin employee, but they are really trying to kind of be champions for what the Weblin app and the Weblin network is locally. So they may have connections to, I know, like one of our Weblin or community editors in the cities, the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, has connections to a bunch of local music venues. And so now we're currently in the process, obviously no promises because it's not official, not signed on a contract or anything. But we're working with a few nightclubs to establish the kind of venue as a hub, essentially, for that area. We're also working with a few local fitness communities in that area to onboard into Weblin and onto the Weblin network to be a Weblin community, to help kind of gain those network effects, gain those communities. And when I say communities, I mean, it can be geographical, so like a whole city. It can be a shared interest, or it can be a business as well, an enterprise. Right. So to answer your question, yeah, we have established stakeholders and relationships in these communities already. Among other things too, we have connections to multiple mayors. And so if we're trying to propose this as a mechanism for greater community involvement to instigate positive outcomes, the municipal governments are the first people that are going to be like, okay, we can use this as a tool to have and drive positive, real, tangible outcomes that we can say, all right, look at what I did for this community the past 4 years. This is why you should reelect me, or this is why we can drive more economic value to the community, or choose your issues, maybe sentiment. One of the things that we like to focus on is directly looking, hey, members of Fargo, North Dakota, are you happy right now? We actually have a metric that we're recording that says it's community sentiment. If you're happy and you say yes, and 45 other people and there 45 other percent of the community say yes, your community metric score is 46% or whatever that may be. It's almost like a mechanism to truly really disrupt community involvement, but really measure it too. We can't just say, hey, we want to make some changes. We have to data-driven decisions are pretty important.
So you said fitness centers. So does that mean, like, if you're a member of this fitness center, if you're incentivized to go and work out? Because it seems I can't get myself to do it for good shape or health, but I might actually go to the gym if I had a crypto incentive. I mean, I seem motivated by it for sure.
Yeah, so. Well, and then it comes to like, okay, so you're a fitness business, and you want to incentivize people to come to your gym over a competitor's. The idea is, if you're on Weblin, you can now tell people, hey, you should come to my gym, because you'll get paid here and you won't get paid there. It's kind of almost like a hook. And this is for almost any sort of engagement or involvement. We're trying to kind of change the way communities are oriented.
That's so cool. So you said something about like proof of attendance, and I think I saw something like proof of humanity, and there's a lot of like cool, a lot of cool ideas, and it sounds like what you're doing really is you're monetizing my data in a sense, and you're giving it back. Instead of, like you said, 1 out of every $6 going to Google or whatever app is tracking us. We're saying, all right, Weblin, we like you guys. You're on the blockchain. Like, here's my data. This is where I am, and this is where I'm going, and these are my interests. And so now you're going to give me some of that. Now, how do you guys treat the data? How do you hold the data? Is it secure? How much of it are you actually storing? Questions like that.
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. And that kind of comes down to if anybody has read the white paper, shout out to you if you have. Definitely recommend it. This
good white paper for sure.
Yeah, the payment for query protocol, right? So we're querying your data and we're paying you for it.
Right.
How this is going to work in a high level, and we have more additional documentation coming soon. I think it comes down to, if anybody's been following our Weblink Network Twitter handle @Weblink Network, we just announced a partnership recently with Verida, and Verida is a really key pivotal partner. The reason why is because it allows you to self-custody your own data. And so the same way that you can self-custody your own private keys, Verida allows you to self-custody or own your own data, so that in the future, when you have this data built up on the Weblink app or the Weblink network or any other application built on the Weblink network, it can store that data. And then we have the plumbing in place, in addition to the Verida partnership, the algorithmic partnership that we just announced recently, where we have not only the plumbing for this data economy, but the front end infrastructure to handle the third parties that are wanting to buy or pay you for your data, such that the data is owned by you. And Weblink is simply a front-end interface for these same third parties that would have involved or been involved with your data through Facebook or Google or maybe YouTube or Twitter. These companies that have your data already, we're just kind of subverting that. We're trying to say, okay, you hold your data. We know how your data is organized because we're working with these people to make sure it works. And we know that you're getting paid because we're paying you, and you can check the transaction on the blockchain. It goes to your wallet. We're simply just giving you the power.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, and I did look through the white paper a bit. I saw that you're a co-chain on the Algorand blockchain, so you have basically a private chain over there, but it can communicate with the main chain.
Yes.
So your WBLN token is an ASA on the Algorand blockchain, and then so how does that is it? What's the point of the co-chain, or how is that all working over there? How do you run a node? What's going on? How do I do this?
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. That's such a good point. So, and this is going to be kind of a whole circular answer, but like you said, the Weblink network is its own network. It's its own co-chain. So it's running in parallel with the Algorand network. It's separate, it's independent, but it is running at the same time. And so we're using an established bridging technology to enable people to transmit information between the chains, enabling people to bridge between different blockchains. And so this has a lot of uses for various other projects that want to take the same Algorand technology or the same architecture that Algorand has created for the network that people are using all the time, and then kind of tailor it to their own uses. And so the goal of the Weblink network is to be a community social economy. And so let's break that down a little bit, right? Community. So the idea is that the core unit of value, if you will, in addition to the kind of Weblink token, right? You said the ALGO is the Algorand network's money. The Weblink is the Weblink network's money. So it's almost like its own layer one coin. The unit, the basic kind of I would say like the core use of what Weblink is going to be, the thing that you use it for primarily, is for the community aspect. So the unit that the core thing you're building on is a DAO. You have the ability to, in the same way you can build a layer 1 ASA, so you just issue a simple asset configuration transaction, you'll be able to do the same thing with the simple community configuration transaction. So to answer your question on why we're doing this, as I circle back to the social and the economy part, we want to change the actual topology of the network itself, the way it's actually structured from a protocol level, to better favor and make developments on the Weblink network more effective in our goals of building more engaged communities. So what it comes down to is now you have like a layer 1 functionality of creating ASAs or doing atomic swaps or doing rekeying that you can just do in a simple one transaction process. We want to do the same thing with DAOs. We want to create a more cohesive social experience in the process. And so once you have the ability to kind of run or create your own community, your Weblink community, when I say Weblink community, it's just another word for saying a DAO that has special tooling in place. So you have the ability to customize delegation of votes or voting in general, treasury management. I kind of see them off there. Treasury management. You have the ability to customize different payout structures. It really gives you more of a for me, it's kind of the DAO tool that I wish I could have to create my own decentralized organizations. And that's kind of the base unit of accounts, if you will, with the Weblink network. The social aspect comes in with the developer side. So in the same way you can build projects like the Weblink app is built on the testnet or the Algorand network of whatever network it may be of Algorand, you can build applications on top of the Weblink network as well. And so we're building a development tool that's essentially just us open sourcing our app that we plan on doing within the next year or two, for anybody to build their own applications on the Weblink network and make it as easy as possible. We call this drop chain, drag and drop blockchain, kind of a play on words. But the idea is we want to make creating a decentralized application on top of this social economy as easy as making an e-commerce store with Shopify. And with the already existing backend infrastructure, it's really just front-end tooling. It's really nice because we already have it made. We just need to open source it. And so as we continue to perfect that, we'll have the social kind of part too. And the economy part is we want this Weblink network is to be the hub to what it means for what it means to be that socialization layer of an economy. And so if we kind of turn back time a little bit, we can look at the Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 revolutions. The Web 1 revolution was the reading aspect. You can read things and get information you've never had before. That's incredibly interesting. It decentralized information to anybody who had access to the internet. Web 2 did the same thing, but instead of just reading. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut off for 1 second. Keep going, sorry.
No worries. Instead of just being able to read things, you now have the ability to write things. So a good example of this is YouTube. You had the ability to, say, read Wikipedia back in the day, but now you have the ability to change Wikipedia or publish a video to YouTube and not only create content, but interact and respond to people. And so Web3 has now allowed an additional venue of exchanging information, but instead of just information, it's value. So now you can exchange value on top of this internet infrastructure we've created. So the idea is this social economy that we are creating is pushed forward by other projects building on top of the Weblink network. So the next Weblink app isn't going to be made by Weblink Inc. It's going to be made by maybe it's a music social economy where you can get closer to your favorite musicians, or a developer social economy where you can trade and use different development tools or whatever it may be. Our goal with the Weblink network is to just build the infrastructure so that these things can exist.
Cool. Nice. What
That's a lot.
No, it's great. So yeah, I mean, do you have a question, Shaman? Or
no, I think you explained it really well. Especially the differences between Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. I think we talked about it in a prior talk, and I think you did really well on kind of really, giving the examples of what that is. That's the one thing that really brought brought me to blockchain was just the exchange of value for Web3. I think it's really interesting how you can reward users. Like you said, you're pulling money from what would originally go to Facebook and you're giving back to the people who are using it. I think it only really naturally makes sense as a progression into the future. So I think it's really interesting. And one thing I did want to ask, actually, maybe this was better at the beginning of the conversation, but so I know you guys have Weblin Inc. and then you have Weblin Network. Just can you kind of go over the differences? I assume it's something kind of like how the foundation and Algorand Inc. goes, but just give a little bit of background on what the reason is for that.
No, that's precisely it. It is kind of like that, right? So there are some obvious legal benefits to that, of course. But the primary thing about this is the Weblin Inc. side of things. The Weblin Inc. as an entity is primarily focused on the Weblin app. And the Weblin app, contrary to what may be perceived by many people, our target audience has nothing to do with crypto or Web3 in general. We actually made the app so that you have no idea what Web3 is, but you can still use it. And so the Weblin Inc. kind of vision or goal or guiding North Star, if you will, is to, of course, build engaged communities and disrupt the way we do community organization, but it's also to help onboard as many people in the Web3 as possible. That's the high-level overview of what Weblin Inc. is trying to do in efforts of supporting the Weblin network. The Weblin network, kind of like what we talked about, is the actual infrastructure. It's what tooling needs to exist such that the Weblin network can succeed in its goals of being this community social economy. So it's a separate kind of, I would say it's a separate entity, if you will. It's more of a decentralized one. It's the Weblin network is kind of like the Algorand network, where it's not owned by Algorand Inc., but it is supported by Algorand Inc., or building tooling on Algorand network so that people can help build more tools and more things. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, if you will, very similar to the Algorand Inc. and Foundation kind of relationship.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. So, okay. So then let's talk a little bit about the token. So the token is, so it sounds like it's a currency in the ecosystem. And is it also like a governance token as well?
That's a very good question. And so to answer that in a short way, no, it's not. The reason why, it primarily comes down to goal outcomes. We want to avoid what is known as a plutocracy. Plutocracies are ruled by the wealthiest. The downside to governance tokens that you can buy is that plutocracy tends to be very dangerous. If you just have a lot of money, you can pay your way in. Exactly. Yeah. And that's not what we want. If we're trying to create truly robust communities, you should not be able to buy your way in. And so this kind of leaks into the proof of humanity protocol, where the proof of humanity protocol creates this token known as the Weblin level. It seems kind of metaversy, and it kind of is a little bit. The idea is you have to be engaged in the Weblin network to earn the governance token. You cannot buy it. It is not purchasable, and it's froze to your account. So you opt in by default by having a wallet or an address on Algorand or on the Weblin network, and you earn it naturally based off the community you're engaged in. So the Weblin network as a whole, their governance token for that is the Weblin level, and you earn that through proof of attendance protocol. The idea is that only humans can attend events physically. So if in order to prove your humanity, proof of humanity, you need to attend events physically and using cryptographic verification. So if you're going to say, I want to have a vote in my community, whether that's physical, geographical community, or maybe it's a community of motorcycle enthusiasts. I don't know. They have the ability to customize not only the Weblin level for the network voting, governance protocol level things. So Algorand governance is a good way to look at that. But you can also customize community level governance with your community governance token or community Weblin level. So if I have my own motorcycle enthusiast community on Weblin, we can make our own motorcycle level, or whatever that may be. Probably a little bit better. Don't go to me for branding. That's not good to say that. But you can customize that with the community protocols. So you can say, all right, my community level is earned by, maybe it's manual. So only you can award tokens to people you physically met. And then you scan it with the phone. You say, all right, you've earned my community level, so now you have stake in the direction of a community. And that kind of reminds me actually of a tweet I saw for ETH Denver, where there's this DAO called Blunt DAO. I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, where in order to get a DAO token sent to you, you got to smoke a blunt with this guy. It's kind of
there you go.
I'm like,
that's right up Coop's alley for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean,
not mine. Not mine.
No, you would never.
I've never. I don't even know.
Like that. That's awesome.
I did not inhale for sure.
So you're like, so you have to show up at this guy's house and like smoke a blunt with them, and now you're in.
Yeah, well, actually, he came to you. So he's like, "Hey, you want to smoke a blunt with me? I'll give you my governance token NFT." And it wasn't me. I was reading this. I'm like, "That's sick." I mean, like, I would probably do it, but like, that's still really cool. Like, I want to get an NFT for that. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's funny. Can get it through this platform. And so I guess the idea is with governance, right? You need them to be separate from the conventional token. So with the Weblin token, you have the Weblin as the base money. If you have the Weblin level or the Weblin community level, it should be separate from the money. And so they're separate in that sense. And there's actually another token that we didn't really talk about called Treasury Bonds. And so we've kind of alluded to that on our Twitter in the past with Weblin Network Treasury Bonds. But so every community transaction takes 2% of the volume and puts it into this Weblin Network Treasury. So Treasury Bonds have essentially like a stake on this treasury, but communities also have your own treasury bonds. And so in the same way we're separating the voting from the money, we're also separating the base money from the community money and the governance of that community. So the idea is kind of, let's make this as segmented as possible so that the outcomes we want to have are as robust as possible, while almost putting the decentralization onus on the people who are participating.
That's cool, man. Yeah, that's the issue with proof of stake in general, is that, somebody can own, you can buy, if you're rich, you can buy your way into having more say and affect things. And Algorand is trying to address this with their community governance as they transition to a DAO with gauging experience and rewarding experience and giving some of that. It sounds like you guys are trying to make sure that people are actually engaged in the community building if they're going to have a say in the governance of the app and the network.
Precisely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, okay, so you have, what's the maximum? I actually don't know the tokenomics for WBLN. So what are the tokenomics? I know that there was some wild like shifts in price when it launched. I do know that.
Yeah. I think we can kind of hit on a few of those points for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So first, the tokenomics. There's 1.15 trillion Weblin.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. There's some funny stuff on Twitter that was being created during that whole beginning launch. I think it's really important for people to read the white paper, so you can get a better understanding of why it is happening the way it is. But for background, it's kind of assumed that a vast majority of these tokens, at least at start, greater than 50, I think it's 53% of all Weblin tokens, will be stored in what is known as the Weblin Treasury, Weblin Network Treasury. And so immediately you cut that circulating supply in half. And the only way these things can be injected into the economy is through Weblin Network Treasury Bonds. You earn these from initial 10% of LP, as well as the remainder is allowed to, you can earn them through earning Weblin level over time. So the tokenomics at first glance look kind of insane. I think it takes a more robust understanding of what the Weblin network is trying to do. And really what it comes down to also is leveraging unit bias as maximally as possible. So when you look at like Ripple back in the day, right, you see, oh, if it's the next Bitcoin, you know, goes to $2, I'm a multimillionaire. Well, if that was a possibility, you know, it'd be, you know, trillions of dollars in market cap. That's just not how it works. In the same way, Weblin is not going to be that. It's just not how it works. There's too many Weblin. At the same time, a vast majority of Weblin tokens are assumed to be locked in Weblin network treasuries and in community treasuries at the same time. And so, although the supply may be high, the circulating supply, the true circulating supply is significantly lower than actually what it appears to be. At the same time, too, new users who are onboarding into the app, we want to make sure that people feel as if the events they're attending have actual value. And so the goal is to, what that large number, we assume, and this is maybe a little bit of ego, but we have to assume that a lot of people that use the platform will be able to earn at least some amount. And so they feel as if, I've actually had this experience with some people personally in my family, where they look at Bitcoin and are like, wow, one Bitcoin is worth, you know, $50,000 when it was worth $50,000. And they say, you know, oh, I don't have enough money to buy the whole Bitcoin though. I can't buy Bitcoin. And I'm like, well, okay, you can buy fractions of Bitcoin. That's okay if you really want to do that. But then they say, okay, I want to buy $10. And then they look at it and it's like 0.0000459 or something. And I'm like, it is worth $10, I promise, but it's actually, you know,
now it's worth like 7. But anyway,
yeah, exactly. It's a little less now. It is. But and I'll kind of address that kind of token launch section too. There's been a few memes on rebalancing. It's kind of funny. It's kind of a little internal meme at this point too. But I'll give a little bit of context to that too. And for background, we have issued reimbursements to those negatively affected, and that finished yesterday. So I want to make things right on that end if there's any confusion on communication. And so we wanted to address that as soon as possible. Thankfully, we did send those out, and that's finalized. For background, right? We've talked about a little bit where this is a community that has started many years ago, and it's an app that has started many years ago. And so naturally, we have created a community of local stakeholders and supporters that love what we are doing and want to support us in as many ways as possible. And so this token launch was not supposed to be nearly as big as it was. I love that it's supported by so many people. The goal of this, though, in our 19th tweet thread, was to onboard slowly stakeholders that were okay with the risk that was going to happen as we continued to launch this token, and then do these periodic rebalances so that, you know, one of our stakeholders, Blackbird Pizza and Fargo, could sufficiently buy whatever amount they're comfortable with, supporting the Weblin token and the Weblin network, without having to worry about, you know, crazy fluctuations or whatnot. That didn't happen. Everyone bought in at the same time, and there's a crazy price fluctuations. Right
when you launch those pools, those bots come right in.
Unfortunately, and if things would have happened the way we envisioned or they were supposed to, it would have been phenomenal. And actually, we're a little biased, but the goal was to establish a price floor, and it happened. It actually did it really well, and that may sound kind of weird based off the reactions. But if you look at the figures, I wouldn't be surprised if we're significantly lower today than we were if that wouldn't have happened. That's neither here nor there. The comms were poor, and we could have done a much better job, and so that's kind of why we did those reimbursements. But the core goal was to allow our local stakeholders, specifically one of them is a Blackbird Pizza in Fargo, where you can actually today buy a pizza, a real oven-baked pizza, wood-fired pizza in Fargo with the Weblin token. That is a current stakeholder that you can interact with today on the app, and they wanted to support us, and that's kind of why we had it structured that way, so that we could slowly, over 2.5 days, onboard these 10 or 15 companies in the city of Fargo that wanted to support us, and we didn't expect them to know how to do any of this. Unfortunately, they had to wait, and they kind of now are kind of on their own, unfortunately, because of, you know, various reasons. We couldn't kind of control the pool, nor could we expect to. that's kind of the background on why that was oriented that way. But we understand that, like I said, communication should have and it's going to be better going forward. And that's kind of why we went down the path of reimbursements. And we want to move forward and continue putting our heads down and grinding on what we think can be happened, what could be done.
So as you know, in these few communities or cities, they're big cities, but these big cities that you're in, as you kind of establish this and you create relationships with, like you were talking about Blackbird Pizza, I think you said, or Blackbeard,
Blackbird, yep.
Blackbird Pizza, and then these other, and then you start to get traction in these cities. Is this something that you see that once the word is out, people are actually using the apps, other cities can start adopting this very easily, and then it kind of just starts to take care of itself a little bit, and it takes less of your engagement and going, shop to shop?
We do. And I think it really comes down to knowing exactly what that process looks like. And so, of course, we can imagine, okay, we're going to want to onboard communities in this way, and we want these things to be in place. I think the big thing is we're going to optimize for automatic network effects, but we want to make sure that the optimization is calculated. So we want to be in a place that we can leverage this network effects as best as possible. And so it's almost like a slow move toward that kind of goal outcomes, if you will. So yeah, absolutely. We envision this kind of becoming a ubiquitous community-driven tool. Actually, we're very convinced of this based off of progress we've had up until this point and continuing forward with the stakeholders and partners we're aligning with today. At the end of the day, we would love to I think it's just, there's things that need to happen first. And so it's making sure the correct things are in place so that, down the road, maybe a company or maybe a municipality is like, we don't really want to do this Weblin whole partnership. But the community itself says, no, we love this. We want to do this on our own. And so they have the ability to do that if they so choose.
Got it. And I'm going to pass it over to you, Andrew, in a second, but I just wanted to ask one last thing. So, because I actually downloaded the app and just to check it out. And it creates a wallet. Now, is Weblin creating an Algorand wallet in the background?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Right now we're on the test net, and once we're porting onto the alpha net, which I guess we give a little alpha, right? We're technically it's live, but we got to do some testing. So okay. But yeah, so when alpha net's up and we connect the app, you will create a real Weblin, a real Algorand compatible wallet that you will be able to have that private key, that address that works on both the Algorand network and the Weblin network. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And so you guys aren't going to custody the keys. Once you're on mainnet, then it's going to be like, all right, you have to write it. Is that kind of, that friction, or is that step going to be there? Or are you trying to remove that step because you're like, look, we're trying to create an experience that people don't even know they're using blockchain?
That's correct. So there are two aspects of this that are very important to realize. The first one is we want to allow people who have the ability to self-custody to do so. That'll probably be through our partner Verida. So it'll have like an Algorand account built into it. You can take the Weblin you earn and send it to yourself, and that's not an issue. Pretty seamless, actually. That's the power user, quote unquote, if you will. The average user, we will self-custody their assets. It's kind of a sad thing because we don't want to do that. It's easier for us if we don't. We don't want to have to worry about people who we have to worry about their keys, and now we have to worry about security, and then it's a whole thing. It's not something we want to do. At the end of the day, our goal is to optimize for onboarding people into Web3, and specifically, trying to optimize for onboarding my mom. Like, she has no idea how to use crypto, and I've tried to teach her, and it's a very challenging process. But older individuals who don't know these things kind of need to have their hand held. And so with this proof of humanity protocol kind of Weblin level setup, our goal is to slowly educate them over time, the higher the level they are. And so as they kind of go through this progression system, we say, okay, cool. Now you understand this about Web3, you understand this. Now we're going to pay you Weblin to self-custody your own account. The goal is to kind of incentivize the education side too. And so at first, we will have to self-custody, but eventually our goal is to not have to worry about that.
Got it. And it's not like I'm linking my wallet. You're generating a new wallet, basically a Weblin wallet.
Yeah.
Where I'll be passing around my Weblin. So if I'm just, if it's not like a major financial, thing for me, it's, you can allow that to happen. But what you're saying is that, yeah, the guy that wants to go to a concert and, get paid some crypto, and doesn't really care. And is just passing it around and has the ability to move it from that app to, maybe he figures out how to get another wallet because he wants to swap it on Tiny Man or something.
Exactly.
You'll be able to do that.
It's supposed to be, so we call it the Weblin wallet. The idea is it's literally supposed to function like a wallet. You wouldn't carry tens of thousands of dollars in your Weblin wallet, nor should you. I hope you don't, because, just like a regular wallet, that shit can get stolen. That's the last thing we want. So yeah, it's supposed to be almost like a little a little pocket wallet, right? You have it for spending money, and when you're ready, you can send it back to your cold storage. Hopefully you have a ledger. That process should be pretty simple, streamlined.
Yeah. All right. What do you got? What do you got there?
A couple things, or I guess really it kind of broadens over to one. So really just kind of what is the highlights for the next year? I know one thing that kind of just plug you out there. You guys are on Yieldly, so you can stake your Weblin over there, which I saw, which is awesome. I know I got a little bag going over there myself. But what's the big plans for this year? Anything that you want to highlight? Anything that's coming down the pipelines that you think our members and the broader community should be aware of?
Yeah, well, I definitely recommend checking out the Weblin Network and at Weblin Inc. Twitters, because I think at Weblin Inc. just pushed our most recent roadmap for the app. So we have a few really cool things in store. Definitely check that out and kind of see pacing and what we have in planned in store. Our goal really is, in a perfect world, we want to finalize on 3 communities, contracts, get them on paper and kind of start pushing forward. We have a few in the works, like we talked about. And so that's trying to be somewhat realistic. Something I've learned personally is that municipal governments take a very long time. They're extremely inefficient. And so we say 3, that's our goal. We want to have at least 3 city partnerships. In addition to that, we have the AlphaNet on the road. We have the BetaNet, which will be almost like the next iteration of the AlphaNet for the Weblin network, as well as the V1s for the proof of attendance, proof of humanity, and Weblin community protocols. So getting the kind of initial infrastructure in place so that not only does the Weblin brand continue to grow, but the Weblin network and the technology architecture continues to grow, so that maybe the next Weblin app is hopefully not made by Weblin Inc. It's made by some of the community members and who wants to leverage this architecture for their goals and their target outcomes.
Maybe Algonauts, who knows?
Hey, yeah. Once we have the community protocols up, you would be able to not only organize your community on the Weblin network, but control voting, control treasury, and then we have I guess another little bit of alpha. We have a fully functioning community dashboard. It's not connected to the blockchain, but the front end and the back end works really, really well, actually. And so we may be tossing a few announcements here and there in the near future. But we're excited. There's some fun stuff in the works.
Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds like a good idea. You also, I know we're winding down right now, but you mentioned earlier a partnership with ALGO Oracle. What is that? What is going on there?
ALGO Oracle is for those who don't know, ALGO Oracle is it's like Chainlink for Algorand. And so I personally do tokenomics advisory, so I may, maybe helping out on the side a little bit there. But their product is very interesting. And in order for the Weblin network to reach the goals that we need to reach, we need oracles. Specifically for the bridging, oracles are really a very important independent information source that allow the information between the Algorand network and the Weblin network to work and be transmitted, as well as various other things too. So one of the things that we're currently working on the infrastructure for with the Verida and ALGO Oracle is the data economy infrastructure. And so one of the biggest things that, we've realized basically all of the value that Google and Facebook and pick your big tech company has right now is from getting your attention, and in essence, it's from milking your data. And so, one of the biggest things that we want to focus on is ensuring that we have the infrastructure in place to kind of replace that, ensure that people have the ability to self-custody their own data, and kind of hit on that big low-hanging fruit that is clearly in front of us right now, so that not only we have the plumbing in place with the Variety and Algorand partnerships with the oracles and with the data storage, we also have the social economy infrastructure on the Webblen network to make that happen.
There you go. All right. Well, what did we leave out? Did we leave anything out? Cover it?
I can't think of anything. I think this is pretty it's pretty good. I guess. Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty succinct, pretty high level overview.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Did we hit your questions there? I see you looking over at the
Yep. I was saying
screen.
I looked through it all. It looks like we hit on all the questions and then some. So I appreciate you coming on, Carter. Coop, as always, thanks for having me on the show as well.
Yeah, man.
Super excited to see what you guys put out throughout the next year. I know you'll probably link the socials, so definitely check them out on Twitter. Go try out their app. Give some feedback. Carter is super open. I talk with him all the time, so I'm sure if you have any questions, you can reach out to him.
Feel free to hop into the People's Weblin Discord. We're pretty active on there. If you have any questions, it may not be right away, but we'll definitely get back to it.
Sorry to be the guy that's like, following you to your, we're walking the same way, and now I'm still talking. But so what is the like, you have this emphasis on like actually teaming up with municipalities, like actual cities. Right. Is there a reason why you're teaming up with cities rather than just kind of a grassroots type of spread where it's like, okay, me and a few people can connect in LA or something, or wherever I am? Like, what is the emphasis on a city? Maybe
that's a good question. Actually, that's a very good question. In the grassroots approach, in maybe like the hands-on business approach, that's necessary. Right? We have to have that kind of approach, and we're continuing to push forward on that. One of the big things we've realized is we're in a similar predicament to what DoorDash has been in, Uber was in, any sort of marketplace dynamics application, or an application that requires both supply of something and demand of something. So with Uber, you need not only the people to request these rides, so they have to know Uber exists. They also have to have the rides to exist. You have to have the people who are driving cars. In the same way, you need people to know that the Weblin app exists, and then you need to have businesses and value creating marketplace listings or events and things to do. The whole economy needs to exist. The whole social economy needs to exist. And in that sense, going from the bottom up is extremely challenging, especially given our team size and our startup stature, if you will. It doesn't allow us to go as fast or as hard as we'd like. The only reason why Uber is so big as big as it is they got a shit ton of VC funding and then just advertise their way into it. We don't want to do that. That's not efficient. A better way is to try to work with these institutions to get our name out there, our brand out there, and create value for everyone involved, and then go top down, because they know people in like the chambers of commerce, which we are working with in the Fargo, Moorhead, and West Fargo area. They know local stakeholders, they know institutions, they know these very important pivotal community kind of puzzle pieces to make sure that the goals we need to hit, they're in place.
Got it. And then you're basically now it's like, okay, we have Fargo and it's working well. The Fargo's happy about it, a great proof of concept. And then you're over at Minneapolis being like, look what we're doing over at Fargo. And then you head out to St. Paul, and then like, Chicago's like, oh man, that looks pretty good over there. Weblin, people love that crypto thing. Yeah. All right. Cool, man.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll let this end now.
I think that is a good sign, right? We got questions after we said goodbye. So I like that.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. Great meeting you, Carter. Thank you so much for coming on. And Andrew, as always, I think we're going to do another one of these soon. I'm excited.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. What's the next?
I'm sure.
You seem to.
We got Metapunks, and then I know not from Algonauts, Humble is coming on
Love those guys.
Tomorrow,
Yes.
Friday. I got
Those
double
guys
check.
are
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Humble on Friday. Chris, right?
Yep.
I'm talking to Chris. And then,
Yep.
we're talking to Metapunks on Monday.
Mm.
We're going to get some questions answered there too.
See what's going
All
on
right.
with Metapunks.
All right, sweet. All right, guys. Well, great talking. And I look forward to having the Weblink app make its way over to where I live, tracking it. I'll get some, put it on Yieldly. It's going to be great.
Thank you very much.
All right.
See you guys.
Here.